Dan, you're muted.
Yep, there I am. Good morning, Indiana. This is Unit 6, and I'm very pleased to be here. My name is Dan Wong. I am a retired attorney and former judge. I'm also on the National Board of Directors for the Center for Civic Education. This is my 30th year of involvement with We the People, and I live in Boise, Idaho. Maria?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Garnett. This is my third year of involvement with We the People. I look forward to being as experienced as Dan one day. Like I said, I live here in Virginia. I am a longtime state employee and public policy professional. I recently left a job with the Virginia General Assembly, where I did nonpartisan policy analysis and evaluated the performance of government programs. I'm now a policy advisor at the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. So it is great to be with you all this morning. I hope you take a deep breath and feel really, really good about just being here in the first place. I'm excited to hear from you.
I would now like the students to please introduce yourselves and tell us the name of your school and the name of your teacher.
All right, thank you, judges. We are Unit 6 representing Team Indiana from Hamilton Southeastern High School in Fishers, Indiana. My name is Ryan Everett. I'm the unit captain, and I plan in the fall to attend Purdue University to study political science.
My name is Aryan Desai, and in the fall, I plan to attend the University of California in San Diego to major in computer engineering.
My name is Dabin Jung, and I plan to attend Purdue University as well to study chemistry.
And my name is Connor Wright, and I plan on attending Indiana University to study business and political science. And we are under the direction of Ms. Janet Chandler.
All right, thank you very much. So let's get right to it. Unit 6, question 1. Thomas Hobbes noted that life in a state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. How has the human condition changed over time? And how is that change reflected in our expectations of government? Should the principles of natural rights or classical republicanism guide policy changes designed to improve the condition of all people? What are the most pressing domestic and global challenges facing Americans today and in the future? What policies can you suggest to address them? You may begin.
Philosopher Paul Tillich said,
"The character of the human condition, like the character of all life, is the inseparable mixture of good and evil."
Human condition changed in the 20th century with the internet, which has allowed information to be distributed quickly. The addition of social media has drastically changed how humans interact around the world. However, this has given way to greater disinformation.
Some websites intentionally misinform the public in order to cause domestic and international conflicts, as is the case with the efficacy of masks during COVID-19. Government has been expected to provide accurate facts to prevent further misinformation and maintain citizen safety. With masks, the CDC has continuously promoted their use to uphold the common good through health.
The human condition also changed with the goal of equality toward previously oppressed groups. African Americans, Latin Americans, women, and the LGBTQ community, among others, have made progress throughout the last century. When progress staggers, Americans expect government action.
Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act prevented employee discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Recent protests reflect our desires to protect these groups by better means of accountability for government officials' actions. Both expectations help improve the human condition.
The founders split over a natural rights or classical republicanism focused government. Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry promoted natural rights and believed in a more limited government whose main role was to protect people from having their rights infringed. Meanwhile, Alexander Hamilton and James Madison advocated classical republicanism and believed in an expanded government that served to promote the common good.
Aryan and I believe natural rights are the best way to improve the condition of all people by clearly articulating that the main function of government is to protect the rights of the people.
The Bill of Rights is our nation's best example of natural rights improving the condition of all people. The First Amendment allows everyone in the United States to say and practice what they believe, while the Fourth Amendment guarantees a certain level of privacy for all Americans.
Ryan and I disagree. We think classical republicanism is the best way to improve the condition of all people. We believe that the condition of most United States citizens is better than it was a century ago.
Countries many see as a model of good government, such as Sweden and Norway, believe in classical republicanism. Both of those countries ask their citizens to pay more in taxes in order to promote the common good.
There are many pressing domestic and global challenges currently facing Americans. As coronavirus vaccinations become more accessible nationwide, Ryan and I believe while states are responsible for protecting citizens, the federal government must provide guidance and ensure states have efficient and effective public health planning.
States like New York and Florida have handled the pandemic completely differently with the same end goal in mind.
Globally, we see the climate crisis as a very pressing challenge. President Biden has shown this as a top priority, rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement with stricter emission standards and a commitment to move towards electric transportation.
RN and I also think fighting the infringement of human rights is an important challenge. In Hong Kong and Myanmar, pro-democracy protesters have taken to the streets en masse to oppose authoritarian control, only to be met with detainment, tear gas, and even harsher measures.
In Russia, opposition leader Alexei Navalny has survived poisoning and is now imprisoned in an attempt to keep him from speaking ill of President Vladimir Putin. Even in the United States, the recent deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, among many others, at the hands of law enforcement, highlight shortcomings in how the challenges we face are handled. As President Abraham Lincoln said,
"You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today."
This concludes our prepared testimony, and we are now ready for follow-up questioning.
All right, thank you very much. So in your 4-minute testimony, I believe I heard you say that that Americans expect government action in resolving our domestic challenges. What do you say to those? I'm sure you agree that there are those who want less government. Explain your answer.
I personally believe that there are times when it's appropriate for the government to step back from issues and take a less central role in trying to solve problems, because some issues can be worked out without government intervention. And so I say to the people who would like less government intervention in issues to really consider how likely it is that an issue can just work itself out, or that it'll get better over time without the government actually stepping in to help correct problems.
Give me an example of an issue that can be solved without government action.
Well, one issue that can be solved without government action is just the acceptance of people for who they are. As we've seen with our generation, we're more accepting of the LGBTQ community than any previous generation. And that's not a result of government intervention. That's just a result of our generation growing up around those people and seeing that they're perfectly normal, fine human beings, and they're great people to be around. And I think as time passes, generations to come are going to be even more accepting than we are.
Thank you. Maria?
And can you all talk a little bit more about, about the, whether it's amendments to the Constitution or elements in the main articles of the Constitution themselves that really do further back up the stances that each of you all on your team took? Like, basically, what is the best constitutional evidence that you have for why your position is the correct one?
when we look at the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment directly states that all people have the ability to have free speech and practice whatever they believe. And that represents our natural rights philosophy as a strong place in the government, as it allows citizens themselves to make their own choices and not have to worry about the government infringing on those choices.
So I know that a couple of you have advocated for natural rights as the best way to solve our challenges, but isn't natural rights a situation where there's no government whatsoever? And it was the state of nature before we had government. And so if I understand natural rights correctly, how can natural rights in fact solve society's problems and issues? Please explain.
I would respectfully disagree with that interpretation of natural rights, since while most natural rights philosophers did believe that it's important for citizens to have their own freedom to practice what they believe, government is still present in order to oversee things on a larger scale, but they're just not heavily interventionalist into all the specific policies that humans can specifically provide.
And as John Locke said, when philosopher John Locke, he emphasized that natural rights is guaranteed for everyone, but there has to be some sort of power and that protects those natural rights for every single person. And so natural rights is still limited government, but there still has to be a government involved to govern those people from protecting or from keeping their natural rights in the first place.
In accordance with what my colleagues have said, I also think it's important to mark the difference between natural rights and classical republicanism as a level of trust in people in general. I think natural rights allows for far more trust that people will do what is best for themselves and what is best for their community without being prompted to than classical republicanism does. And I think that that difference can be a key marker in determining which would be more useful in a certain situation.
Maria?
Is there a role in government for trying to push public opinion in a certain direction? For example, should we always just expect that people eventually will get to the place of accepting others? Or is there a role in government when it comes to how people see one another? And if so, what should that role be?
In recent years, we have seen the government take a role in assessing what certain social policies should stand. Recently, we saw the anti-Asian hate bill pass through both houses, and that showcased how the government stepped in and made an affirmative statement that they wouldn't stand for anti-Asian hate in the country, and that anti-Asian hate crimes should be properly enforced and discouraged.
In terms of economics, I mean, we're seeing a bill currently in the House right now, the House Resolution 40 bill, which is calling for the reparation of African Americans, so that as a form of a national apology to what we've done to African Americans over these past centuries. And so that is an example of when government action can be taken through economic policy in order for us to rebuild our own communities through government intervention.
And additionally, sometimes the government can't afford to wait for public opinion to catch up on issues. Sometimes you have to take action to expand the rights of the people immediately, and the public may not be entirely on board at that time. So one example I think that's really important and still gets debated today is Roe v. Wade. So the Supreme Court decided that women had the right to an abortion, and we still debate, how far or how much of a right women should have today. And I think that was one example of the government giving rights that weren't necessarily in the majority, like giving rights that people didn't necessarily believe ought to exist.
So you've mentioned the importance and the issue of level of trust. What would you do specifically to increase the level of trust between our two very divided partisan political parties? Be specific. What increases the level of trust?
Well, I think that polarization between the two parties is as great as it has ever been. I do think that there are a lot of things that both parties agree on. Finding cures for diseases such as cancer, certain social issues. I mean, the anti-Asian American hate bill passed 94-1 in the Senate. So clearly it's not a large number of opponents to these measures. So I think it's important that both parties use those measures to work together and be an example for bipartisanship. And I think that the rest of the country will follow suit if they see it at the national level.
Really quickly, what's something each of you is doing today in order to make a better tomorrow for your greater society around you? I'm just curious.
So,
well, never mind.
Nope, sorry, that is time. Thank you very much.
So good job. So I do have a love-hate relationship with We the People. I love listening to you. I hate it when the facilitator says time because that ends the conversation. And we did have a good conversation, and certainly Maria and I did push you, and I thought your answers were very thoughtful and very first of all, go back to your 4-minute testimony. I enjoyed it. It was filled with good citations, a lot of citations to support your advocated position. I like the fact that it was lots of supporting evidence on that. As far as the cross-examination questions, I thought you handled them fairly well. I think you do recognize the issue and challenges that Americans have domestically and globally. And I do agree that while there's a lot of partisanship going on, focusing on what they do agree upon is something that should be aspired to. I mean, there's not a lot they agree on, but I think they do agree on a lot. For example, fortunately, the anti-Asian American bill passed the Senate with a high vote total, as you noted, and I think that people would join together on healthcare. Although, quite frankly, Obamacare had quite a row between the Republicans and Democrats. But I agree with you that focusing on what the parties do agree with is important, and I'm hoping that the youth of America, including all of you, will use that as the guide in going forward. Good job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to echo everything that Dan said. You all did a really, really good job of very equally sharing responsibility and speaking time, especially during your opening statement. I also really appreciated that there was a wide variety of supporting evidence that you used. You all made references to the philosophers that inspired the framers and the framers themselves and the Bill of Rights and legislation that later came, that came later, basically. And even talking about legislation as recent as this week. So always take that mindset, right? You're wanting to have as much and as varied supporting evidence as possible. One piece of constructive feedback that I have for you all is that some of the very rapid switching from one person to the next, or having part of the sentence said by one person and then the other part said by another, was a little bit hard for me to follow at times. So that could just be me, but that's just some feedback that I have there. Always try to think about what the experience will be like for the audience that you are presenting to, and organize your argument accordingly. But yeah, you all have such bright futures ahead of you, hearing what all of you are planning to study in college. And I love that there are those of you who are planning on studying political science, which I did as an undergrad. So just feel really proud of yourselves. You have accomplished so much and you will continue to do so.
Good job.
Thank you so much, judges. We appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much.